Drugs have become a part of our everyday life. Don't believe me? Well, we've all taken paracetamol and coffee, but how many of us have actually ever taken something illegal? 40% of teenagers in the UK alone have stated that they've tried a substance ranging from cannabis to cocaine. The most recent studies within the UK show that 47% of 16 to 24-year-olds are cannabis users, whilst 24% of the age group use amphetamines. Only 17% of the age group claim to have taken LSD, and only 12% of young people between the age group take ecstasy, and that's just the youth. But how many of us have ever thought or acknowledged the consequences that drug intake can actually have on our body and our mental state of mind? And how many does this have an effect on our everyday life? Have 40% of you thought about the effects of drugs have on their mental and physical state? Have you? Drugs are such a part of the British culture, for our mission now is to find out whether drug misuse and drug abuse can cause or implement health illnesses.
722 is the Waltham Forest service for young people that have either got a problem with any kind of drug, and that includes alcohol, or they're affected by somebody else that may be using drugs or alcohol. Sometimes it's because people find something that they really enjoy doing and they just get really into it and they don't know how to stop. Sometimes it's because they might be looking for something to fill a hole in their life, but I wouldn't say that that's always the case.
We all know that party drugs such as MDMA and cannabis are a huge part of this lifestyle. But what are the young people's actual opinions on these drugs? Do they really like taking these drugs? Are these drugs really that commonly used by young people? And how is drug use with young people perceived by older generations? Is it always negative? I think it's time to find out. So what do you think about drugs?
I think it's a good thing, to be honest. Some drugs, not all drugs, not all drugs, not all drugs. Don't get me wrong, not all drugs.
They're not good for you, obviously, right? Like, it damages you, it harms you. Yeah, that's about it.
Hello?
About drugs.
About drugs.
Drugs is good, you know.
It's actually one of the best things, like, known to man.
They're crazy. They shouldn't be taken.
Does have to be
marijuana. I think I got spiked once.
What?
I don't know, I think I just got spiked.
Like, if you do some research, one of the Hindu gods, known as Shiva, she's actually known as the god of ganja. If you actually want to check that,
I've met people that maybe binge drink, so they don't go out drinking, every day, but they might do it a couple of times a month, but they've ended up getting themselves into circumstances that have been really, really unfortunate, and where they've come to some sort of harm. So, they're kind of pretty difficult cases to work with because that young person's had a really horrible experience.
Drugs have been linked to being a cause of mental health illnesses, or at least a cause for mental health illnesses to worsen. Why do drugs have these effects on our mental health? Do all these drug users eventually attain mental health illnesses? And what exactly is a mental health illness? And how exactly does drug intake cause mental health illnesses to become apparent?
There's lots and lots of debate particularly around cannabis. Does cannabis cause psychosis? Does it cause mental health issues? My feeling, I've worked in substance use for nearly 20 years, is around if you're predisposed to something. So if you already have some kind of mental health issue, then it can exacerbate it, it can make it worse, it can trigger some factors for people. So there's lots and lots of debate around it. Some people, like I say, will use it to help with their mental health symptoms. So there's, the topic's out really, it's really up for debate, and it's like chicken or the egg, what came first?
To be honest with you, no.
To be honest, yeah. Like, if you smoke marijuana, you'll get skits.
They can do in certain circumstances, yes.
Yeah, I think so too, because when someone gets used to taking drugs all the time, they become a bit fucked up in the head.
I think mental illness is just, a part of
life with it. You know, everyone has a little, problem with them. You know.
Why?
They have psychotropic action on the chemistry of the brain. This can clearly have some kind of influence on the way the brain works.
They'll have like mood swings and kind of act like a crazy person, more or less.
Find someone to talk to about it if you can. I think what happens for a lot of young people that we see here, you're given different messages at school and via the media, and generally it's about drugs are bad, you need to stop using drugs. At 722, the way that we work is we're friendly, we're nice, but we say, okay, let's have a look at what you're using and why you're using.
So does drug use always lead to mental health illnesses? Is the British youth really that naive to how drugs affect the mind and body? I'll leave you your own opinions, but the fact is drugs will initially always have an effect on mental health illnesses.